Welcome into another edition of Mixing a Water Monday, and joining us today is former Gamecock defensive lineman Jabari Ellis. And Jabari, as I was saying to you right before we hopped on, it's great to have you on today for multiple reasons. One, it's always good to catch up with you, but two, that defensive line, man. I mean, they had their issues, and I know it wasn't just the D line the first couple games of the season when things weren't going well, but man, they really balled out the other day.
Yeah, for sure. First off, it's a pleasure to be here, man. It's always good talking to you. And yeah, for sure, just seeing the defensive line and all that, them boys playing at a high level and playing good, man. That's what you want to see.
So in that game, South Carolina, they racked up 9 tackles for a loss. The crazy thing about it is heading into that game, Jabari, and I don't even know if you were aware of this, they only had 10 all year through the first 3 games. That was second worst in the country.
Mm-hmm.
You get those 9 TFLs, you get the sacks going, right? What can that do for a defensive line's confidence as you move forward? And obviously, as we know, the schedule's only going to get tougher now that you're in conference play.
Right. And I'm gonna be honest, man. When it comes down to the production and the stats and the numbers, one we always know, and I say we just being Gamecocks, we always know our ability, especially with Coach White's defense. His defense, the numbers always speak for itself, just as far as a production standpoint. But from a confidence standpoint, it should be a huge confidence booster, simply because you seen what all they did. You seen what all they did, everything like that. So I for sure feel like that's a huge confidence builder going forward.
You mentioned Coach White, and you get it, right? When things aren't going well in some area, whether it's a little thing or a big thing, this fan base, they're passionate. They're going to talk about things. That's just the reality of it. And if you're the quarterback, head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, those are usually the positions that people are going to be coming at you with. Having said all that, right? There were some good on that defensive side. There were some things they probably want to clean up. What do you think, having played for Coach White for a year, what do you think are some of the things that he's talking about with his group to be able to get things right as they move forward and get ready for Tennessee?
Well, first thing first, Coach White got a saying that he loves saying, which is the hay is never in the barn. So simply meaning like, don't pay attention to this and don't pay attention to that. Even when like how you had a game when you seen some production, you seen some numbers or whatever, don't focus on that. Like let's keep rolling, let's keep going, let's keep going. And it could be in the halftime, it could be first quarter, second quarter, third, whatever. It ain't done. It ain't done. So I believe that they're gonna keep it rolling and keep it going in terms of high production on the D line and not just D line as a defense.
I want to bring it back to D-line because defensive lineman, and this is a guy you had a chance to be able to see grow firsthand, and I'm sure you've been paying attention from afar since you left South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it was announced that Alex Boogie Huntley was named the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. He obviously, along with so many in those games, I was very proud with Jordan Strawn as well. He's come back from the ACL injury. A couple guys probably could have got that, and that's not taken away from Boogie because Boogie balled out. And as you know, too, there's sometimes you're taking on 2 blocks. You have to be a traffic cone. Sometimes you might not get the stats. There were other things that he did other than stats.
Right.
How proud of you are him, number one, to be able to receive that honor? And if you can think back a little bit, how do you think he's really grown since you remember when he first came in as a young pup out of Hammond School?
Man, I'm gonna be honest, man. I'm so proud of him, and not just him, all of those guys, but in him specifically, man. I can remember. I'm gonna say Boogie. Boogie is a guy. He didn't skip any steps, which meaning he went through that freshman growing pains, receiving a lot of flack from not just the other players, coaches, whatever. He went through that, and just to see him to progress and to put it out, put it all together and it shows on the field. That's huge. I'm very proud of him. And just like I said, not just him, all of those guys, because those guys, what I like to call, they battlefield tested. So I know no matter what, when they step on the field, I know what they're gonna give. So those guys, man, I'm just happy to see it. I'm just happy to see it, to be honest.
I want to flip on to the other side of the ball, talk about the offensive line. And I think you bring a unique perspective as a defensive lineman because when you line up, right, could be a defensive back going up against a receiver, there's certain things that you notice. with your defensive line background, what have you noticed about this whole line? I mean, they're starting to come together. They're having new players out there. They got some true freshmen out there. I think obviously we look at it, it's like, man, they're giving Rattler some more time, and that that's been paying off. Have you
Right.
noticed anything though?
Right. Well, I think this last game was one of the better games, probably, if not the best game they played. It all come down just meshing together and playing complementary football as a unit, and not just as a whole offense, but just as a unit, offensive line unit. But one thing I can say, you can kind of tell that they kind of settling down and not letting other outside noise or outside things get to them, and they kind of settling down. And now they kind of progressing and taking another step, which they know that everybody know that they can do.
You played with some absolute dudes on the other side of the ball. I mean, when you look at the list of wide receivers in particular, because I got here in 2016, that was your first year at South Carolina, and you just go down the list. We could talk about Brian Edwards, Deebo Samuel. We could just keep going down the list. Spencer Rattler, of course, is doing his thing. Xavier Legette, he's been balling out. When you're on the other side of the ball, and obviously it's much easier said than done, right? Get off the field on third down, win the money downs, be able to give your star players the ball back. What do you think that's like right now, seeing those two in particular, and obviously offense as a whole, doing what they're doing when they are clicking?
Yeah, well, first off, man, Spencer's playing lights out. I'm gonna be honest. He's balling. And as far as Xavier Legette, man, he's another guy I'm just proud to see because I know the origin of his story, his journey
Yeah.
in college football. So I'm just proud to see that, man. And Zay, he got all the attributes, and he works hard. He's been a hard worker since day one. And I think it's some things that he cleaned up to take another step, and you can see that he reaping the benefits from that. So I'm excited to see it. And Zay is one of the fastest guys, that I know or I play with. One of, and I give you even a quick story about that. So at my time at USC, I used to go down to the track, right? And what I do, we'll race 40 yards with some of the track guys, and
Mm-hmm.
I always tell them like, yo, man, I'm 285, I'm 285. Let me get a 10-yard head start, because these guys would be guys that's competing nationally and things like that. So they'll always give me a 10-yard head start, going about 40, 50 yards, and sometimes we'll bet for money, and sometimes we don't, just a bet. And I always beat them. I always beat all of them. I even challenged some of my teammates, and I beat them as well. So this one particular time, Xavier challenged me to it, and I just knew I had it. I just knew I was going to beat him simply because nobody beat me, and I beat some credible guys. So long story short, man, Xavier, we get about 5 yards to the finish line. He went shoot running by me. I said, "Oh man, he real deal." I thought he cheated, but once we look at the video, nah, he didn't. So he got real deal speed, man. So just to see all that come together, I'm happy. I'm for sure happy to see it.
And you mentioned, I mean, there are people that have been following his journey, and I'm sure as a teammate, you know more about his story than some of us on the outside. And I bring that up because that aside, I think back to last season. He had a game in particular, had a couple drops, and I think this fan base, and they're a passionate fan base. There's some people that were probably like, all right, is X going to be the guy? And
Right,
I just remember he bounced back. He had a huge play on special teams,
right,
has the kickoff return against A&M, and I felt like at that moment he really was able to gain some confidence back into his game, and at least it started to show from an offensive standpoint. He was very determined this offseason. I know he worked out with Deebo Samuel, and it's starting to show, and he looks like he's freaking jacked right now. I
right.
mean, I don't want to go as far as to say he's as big as you, but I mean, he's got some muscle on him. But yeah, I mean, he's just been absolutely balling out, and like you said, in that story right there, he's always had the speed, and it was kind of funny the other night because I think the play-by-play guy was like, "Where's this speed coming from?" But if you've been paying attention, it
Yeah, he
shouldn't
always is.
surprise you.
And I'm be honest, I gotta say it. You mentioned Deebo and him working out with Deebo Samuel. One thing about Deebo, I gotta tip my hat to. Deebo Samuel always been a guy that reached back and grabbed younger Gamecocks. And I'm
Really?
talking no cameras, no coverage, no this, no that. He always been like that since he left. He'll grab some guys or whoever, whatever, and he'll help mentor them and coach them up or do this and do that. So I respect him for that. That's one thing I always seen since he left.
So that's something that he's been doing since he's been in the NFL, is that
Yeah,
he's constantly reaching back. And like you said, the cameras aren't even on. So
yeah,
people don't
right,
even know this.
right. So this is not the first time he done that. This not, and there's other Gamecocks as well. But we
Yeah.
talking about Xavier specifically and Deebo specifically.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Gamecocks that are going to hear that, and they're going to be very happy. And obviously, with what Deebo has done since he's left here, it speaks for itself.
Right.
But seeing that C on his jersey now as a captain, that just also goes to show how he's become a leader, both obviously during his time in the NFL with the 49ers, but how he continues to be a leader in the Gamecock community since he's left Columbia. I
Right.
also want to bring up, too, you understand as a defensive lineman just the impact having a good run game. It doesn't have to be a good run game, but some type of run game. And obviously, it was lacking outside of that Furman game, but it was lacking week 1 against North Carolina. It was lacking week 2, especially in the second half against Georgia. You get the run game going. What can that do for South Carolina's offense? Because again, you understand what that changeup can do in comparison of knowing, hey, I can just put my hand in the dirt. They're going to pass.
Right. Well, that's just like where I go back to what I was saying earlier, talking about complementary football. So if you got the O line playing playing as a unit, and you got the backs playing as a unit, and you got the receivers playing as a unit, well, that makes complementary football for the offensive side. So man, it don't make you one dimensional. So I think just as far as the run game and things like that, man, as long as it's production like it's been last game and all that good stuff like that, oh, the sky's the limit. Now it opens up the book, or just what you want to do and things like that. And we do have some pretty good backs as well. The 3 or 4 guys that's in there, we do have pretty good backs. So I'm just excited to see that it progress as it's been doing.
Last thing for you. Got to go to Knoxville. Got to play a ranked team. On paper, the spread just keeps getting wider and wider. I know a lot of players probably don't pay attention to that. But then again, it's kind of hard not to see it sometimes because, shoot, everything's on your phone these days. Having said all that, Jabari, right? I know a lot of players will say, okay, last year is last year. Tennessee's going to use that as some type of motivation this season.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when you're heading into a game like this, knowing, okay, yeah, last year's last year, but at the same time, too, that was kind of the turning point, even though it was late in the year, the turning point for South Carolina. They were able to get that win. They were able to get the big win the following week against Clemson. Rattler started to play out of his mind, especially at that point. You're going into a place like that. They're going to be thinking about that stuff in the back of your head.
Right.
How do you prepare for that, knowing that they're going to be using it as motivation, but at the same time, too, what we did last year, putting up 60-plus points, it does not mean a thing in terms of what we're going to do this week, and then we have to go out there and execute.
Right. Well, me personally, I think, taking them out of it. You focus on you, the person in the mirror, the team in the mirror, which is Gamecocks. You focus on you and striving towards being the best you can be each and every day, and you will, and you prepare the right way. You'll have a good day down in Knoxville, in Tennessee. Of course, and if you do think about them, use it as motivational purposes, only, not necessarily thinking like, oh, we sleeping on them, or this is not a good team, or this, that, third. Use it as motivational purposes only, in terms of taking care of business, doing what you have to do.
I said that was the last question, but just how you been? How you been, man?
I've been good, man. I've been good, blessed, to be honest, man. No complaints at all.
Let Gamecock Nation know what you've been up to, though. I know you've been trying to get back on a roster. I know you've been continuing to work hard, but you also been doing some stuff in the community, which you've always done. I know you've been having some watch parties, being able to gather Gamecock fans.
Right. So that's always going to be there. That's always going to be there, just as far as, community work. That's not going to change no matter where I'm at. But right now, man, I'm over here helping out my high school, Lake Marion High School, with football. And I'm planning to go to the XFL this coming spring, this new league, this new season that's coming up.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, Jabari, as always, appreciate you coming on, man. You are a blessing, and always good to just be able to talk to you, buddy.
For sure, man. Good to see you as well. Good to talk to you.